The hell is this? Some broke monkey walking in here weighing $20 million?
Todd Brannigan snatched the certified check off his desk and held it up like a used napkin. Willa Crawford stood across from him, black, mid-40s.
Verify the check. Call the escrow company.
Verify? The only thing I need to verify is which barn you wandered out of.
He picked up the check, $20 million, and tore it in half.
Now get your black ass out of my bank.
The whole lobby of Heritage First National Bank went quiet. Willa looked at the torn pieces. Then she pulled out her phone. Todd laughed.
Oh, she's calling somebody. Good luck with that.
But here's the thing. Todd Brannigan had no idea who he just messed with. And by the time he found out, it was already way too late. But before we get to that part, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me show you who Willa Crawford really was, because this story only hits different when you understand where she came from. Willa grew up on the south side of Detroit. Her mama drove a school bus 6 days a week. Her daddy sorted mail at the post office until his knees gave out. They never had much, but they had rules. Work hard, stay quiet, let your results do the talking. Willa followed those rules her entire life. She was the first person in her family to go to college, full scholarship, computer science. She graduated top of her class while working 2 part-time jobs and sending money home every month. By 26, she had started her own cybersecurity company out of a 1-bedroom apartment with a laptop and a folding table. By 32, that company had contracts with 3 Fortune 500 firms. By 36, she sold it for $440 million. Cash. But here's the thing about Willa. She never changed. She didn't buy a mansion in Beverly Hills. She didn't show up on magazine covers. She moved into a brownstone in a quiet neighborhood with her husband Calvin, an architect. She drove a 5-year-old Volvo. She wore simple clothes. No logos, no diamonds, just a thin gold wedding band. 2 years ago, Willa made a move nobody saw coming. Through her private holding company, Thornfield Capital, she quietly acquired a controlling stake in Heritage First National Bank. Majority owner, the whole thing. But she never put her name on the door, never announced it, never walked in demanding the corner office. She wanted to watch. She wanted to see how the bank actually operated when nobody important was looking. And what she heard, through internal reports, through whispered complaints, through numbers that didn't add up, told her something was very wrong at the Midtown branch. 9 complaints in 3 years, all from customers of color, all against the same manager, all buried. So on this particular Tuesday morning in March, Willa Crawford put on her linen blouse, grabbed a certified check for $20 million from a commercial property sale, and drove her Volvo to the Midtown branch of Heritage First National Bank. She didn't bring her lawyer. She didn't bring her husband. She didn't bring a bodyguard. She walked in alone, on purpose. She wanted to see it with her own eyes. Now let me tell you about the man she was about to meet. Todd Brannigan had been the branch manager at Midtown for 12 years. 12 years of running that place like his own personal kingdom. He had a system. It wasn't written down anywhere. It didn't need to be. Everyone who worked there understood it. If you were white and looked like money, you got the leather chair, the fresh coffee, and Todd's personal attention. If you were black, Latino, anything else, you got the rope line. You got the weight. You got the attitude. Todd pulled into the parking lot that morning in his leased BMW. Navy suit, gold cufflinks. He walked through the front door and shook hands with 2 white clients by first name. Smiled, laughed, asked about their kids. Then he walked right past Denise Holloway, a black teller who had worked at that branch for 3 years without so much as a nod, like she was furniture. He leaned into his assistant manager Colton Mercer's ear and cracked a joke about a diversity hire they had to interview last week. Colton laughed so hard his coffee almost spilled. That was the culture at Midtown. That was Todd's kingdom. The branch itself looked like something out of a magazine. High ceilings, Oil paintings of former bank presidents lining the walls, every single one a white man in a dark suit. The air smelled like furniture polish and old leather. It was designed to make certain people feel welcome and certain people feel like they didn't belong. That Tuesday morning, the lobby had a mix of customers. Two elderly white couples being helped promptly. A young black couple sitting in the waiting area trying to open a joint account. They had been there for 40 minutes and nobody had called their name. A Latino businessman in a tailored suit checking his watch, clearly frustrated. A black mother holding her toddler daughter on her hip, clutching a folder full of documents for a small business loan application. Willa noticed all of it. Every detail, every glance, every person being skipped over. She walked up to the teller window where Denise Holloway was working. Denise greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" "I'd like to make a large deposit," Willa said. "I'd prefer to speak with the branch manager for a private transaction." Something flickered across Denise's face, a tiny flash of worry. She knew what happened when black customers asked for Todd. But she stayed professional and picked up the phone. "Mr. Brannigan? There's a customer here requesting to see you for a deposit." A pause. Then Todd's voice through the receiver loud enough for Willa to hear. "What do they look like?" Denise swallowed. "Sir? I said, what do they look like? I'm busy." Denise glanced at Willa. She's a woman, sir. She says it's a large deposit." Another pause. A sigh. "Fine, send her over." Willa heard every word. She said nothing. She simply walked toward Todd Brannigan's desk, and that's when everything started to fall apart. Todd Brannigan didn't stand up when Willa approached his desk, didn't offer a handshake, didn't gesture to the leather chair across from him. He just leaned back, arms crossed, and looked her up and down like he was sizing up a stray dog that wandered into a restaurant. "So," he said, "what's this about a deposit?" Willa sat down without being invited. She placed her handbag on her lap, unzipped it, and pulled out a certified check inside a clear protective sleeve. She slid it across the glass desk. $20 million, she said. "Certified check from Ashford National Escrow. I'd like to deposit it into my account." Todd glanced down at the check, then back at Willa, then back at the check. His eyebrows went up slowly, like someone watching a child try to explain algebra. "20 million, he repeated. "That's correct." Todd picked up the check. He held it at an angle under the desk lamp. He turned it over. He squinted at the watermark. But here's the thing. He wasn't actually examining it. He was performing, making a show. Every movement designed to communicate one thing. "I don't believe you." "And this is yours," he said. Not a question, a challenge. "It's made out to my name," Willa replied. "Willa Crawford. You can see it right there." Todd set the check down and leaned back in his chair. He didn't touch his computer, didn't pull up her account, didn't reach for the phone to call the escrow company. He just sat there, arms crossed again, with this little half smile on his face. "Mrs. Crawford, or whatever your real name is, you want to tell me where you got this?" The air shifted. Willa felt it. Everyone within earshot felt it. "Excuse me?" she said. "I asked you a question. Where did this check come from?" "I told you, Ashford National Escrow. It's from the sale of a commercial property portfolio. The issuing firm's number is printed on the check. You can call them right now." Todd shook his head slowly. That smile never left his face. "See, here's the problem. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've sat in this chair and processed thousands of transactions. And in 20 years, you know how many times someone who looks like you has walked in here with a $20 million check?" He held up a fist. "0. "Not once," he said. "Not one single time. So you're going to have to forgive me if I'm a little skeptical." Willa's hands rested flat on her knees. Her voice stayed level. "Mr. Brannigan, I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to follow your own bank's verification protocol. Run the check through your system. Call the escrow company. Confirm the funds. That's standard procedure for any large deposit." "Don't tell me about procedure," Todd snapped. His voice rose just enough for the nearest customers to turn their heads. "I know procedure. And my procedure says when something smells like fraud, I don't waste my time. This isn't fraud.
How would I know that?
Todd leaned forward now, both hands on the desk. You walk in here, no appointment, no advisor, no nothing, dressed like you're going to pick up groceries, and you hand me a check for $20 million. $20 million! You don't look like $20 million, sweetheart. You don't sound like it. And you sure as hell don't smell like it. That word, smell, landed like a slap across the face. Two customers in the waiting area shifted uncomfortably. Denise Holloway at her window froze, her fingers hovering above her keyboard. Willa didn't react, not outwardly, but something behind her eyes hardened. A door closing, a decision being made. I'd like to speak with your supervisor, she said. Todd laughed. Not a polite chuckle, a full laugh, the kind you do when somebody tells a joke that's too stupid to take seriously. My supervisor? He said. Lady, I am the supervisor. This is my branch. My name is on the parking spot outside, and I'm telling you, this check is not real. This transaction is not happening, and you need to leave. I'm not leaving until you verify the check. Then we've got a problem, because I'm not verifying anything. They stared at each other. 5 seconds. 10. The lobby was so quiet you could hear the clock on the wall ticking. Colton Mercer, Todd's assistant manager, had been watching from across the floor. He walked over now, standing just behind Todd's right shoulder. Arms folded, chest puffed. Backup arriving on cue. Everything okay here, Todd? Colton asked. But he wasn't asking. He was positioning. 2 white men on one side, 1 black woman on the other. Just fine, Colt, Todd said, not breaking eye contact with Willa. This lady here is about to leave, aren't you? Willa didn't move. No, she said quietly. I'm not. Todd's jaw tightened. The amusement drained from his face. Now it was just contempt. Pure, undiluted contempt. You know what? He said. He picked up the check again. Let me make this real simple for you. And that's when he did it. He held the certified check, $20 million, printed on security paper, issued by one of the most respected escrow firms in the country, and he tore it. Slowly, right down the middle. The sound of the paper ripping was the loudest thing in that building. He dropped the 2 halves on the desk like used tissues. There, he said. Problem solved. Now I'm going to ask you one more time, nicely, to get your black ass out of my bank, before I call somebody who'll make you leave. The lobby was frozen. 15 people, customers, employees, nobody breathed. An elderly white woman near the entrance put her hand over her mouth. The young black couple in the waiting area, the ones who'd been ignored for 40 minutes, stood up and left without a word. The black mother near the door pulled her daughter closer, her eyes wide with something between fear and fury. Denise Holloway gripped the edge of her counter so hard her knuckles turned pale. And Willa Crawford, the woman who'd just been called a monkey, told to leave, had $20 million torn up in her face, did something nobody in that lobby expected. She picked up the torn pieces, folded them neatly, placed them inside her handbag, zipped it shut. Then she looked at Todd Brannigan and said 4 words. I need your full name. Todd snorted. Todd Brannigan, employee numbers on the wall behind you, and good luck finding anyone who gives a damn about your little complaint. Willa nodded. She pulled out her phone, dialed 1 number. It rang twice. Gerald, she said, her voice as calm as still water. Midtown branch, right now. She hung up, sat back down, crossed her legs. Todd watched her. For the first time, just for a flash, something crossed his face that looked almost like uncertainty, but it passed quickly. Gerald, he muttered. Who the hell is Gerald? He was about to find out. Now, most people, most reasonable, rational human beings, would have looked at this situation and thought, okay, maybe I went too far. Maybe I should double-check before I tear up a $20 million check and call a woman a monkey in front of the entire bank. But Todd Brannigan was not most people. Instead of pausing, instead of thinking, instead of doing the one thing that might have saved his career, he doubled down. hard. He picked up the desk phone and dialed 911. Yes, hello. This is Todd Brannigan, branch manager at Heritage First National Bank, Midtown location. I need to report an attempted fraud. I've got a woman here who tried to deposit a forged check for $20 million. She's refusing to leave the premises. He said it loud, on purpose. Wanted the whole lobby to hear, wanted Willa to hear. Black female, mid-40s, linen blouse. She's sitting in front of my desk right now. He hung up and looked at Willa with the satisfied expression of a man who believed he just won. Police are on their way, sweetheart, he said. Last chance to walk out of here on your own. Willa didn't move. Her hands stayed in her lap. Her breathing was steady, but something had shifted behind her eyes. Not fear, something deeper, something colder. She was a black woman sitting in a bank. A white man had just called the police on her. She knew, the way every black person in America knows, exactly what could happen next. She knew the history. She knew the headlines. She knew the names of people who didn't make it home from moments just like this one. And still, she did not move. Colton Mercer positioned himself near the front door. He didn't block it exactly. He was smarter than that. He just stood there, arms crossed, legs apart, a human barrier with a smirk. The message was clear. You're not going anywhere. Todd straightened his tie and addressed the lobby like a captain calming passengers on a turbulent flight. Folks, I apologize for the disruption this morning. We take fraud very seriously at Heritage First. This situation is being handled appropriately. Please continue with your business. He smiled at a white couple near the window. They smiled back nervously. Everything under control. Nothing to see here. 8 minutes later, 2 police officers walked through the front door. The first officer was a tall woman with her hair pulled back tight. Professional, neutral expression. She scanned the room before speaking to anyone. The second officer, shorter, heavier, already sweating through his collar, went straight to Todd and shook his hand. Sir, what's the situation? Todd put on his gravest face. Officer, thank you for coming so quickly. This woman, he pointed at Willa like she was an exhibit, came into my branch this morning with a clearly forged, certified check for $20 million. When I refused to process the fraudulent instrument, she became confrontational and refused to leave. Confrontational, Willa repeated from her chair, quietly, almost to herself. The second officer turned to her. Ma'am, can I see some identification? Willa opened her handbag. She pulled out her driver's license, a second photo ID, and her Heritage First bank card. She handed all 3 over without a word. The officer examined them, flipped the license over, held it up to the light. Everything checked out. Valid, current, real. Todd wasn't done. He leaned toward the officer and lowered his voice, but not low enough. Listen, anyone can get a fake ID these days. I'm telling you, this woman is running a scam. I've been in banking 20 years. I've seen this kind of thing before. This kind of thing? The first officer repeated, looking at Todd. Something in her tone suggested she heard exactly what he meant. Ma'am, could you step over here for me? The second officer said to Willa. He gestured toward the wall. Not toward a chair, not toward a private room, toward the wall. In full view of every customer and employee in the building. Willa stood up. She walked to where the officer pointed. And she stood there, separated from the other customers, isolated, like a suspect in a lineup. The lobby was watching. Some people had their phones out now, recording. The young black mother near the door hadn't left. She held her daughter on one hip and her phone in the other hand, filming everything. The elderly white woman who had gasped earlier shook her head and whispered to her husband, "This isn't right." Her husband said nothing. The second officer started asking questions. Standard questions, but the way he asked them, the tone, the rhythm, the implication behind each one made them feel like an interrogation. Where did you get this check, ma'am? From a commercial property sale. The escrow company is Ashford National. Their number is on the check. And what do you do for a living? I run a private investment firm. Uh-huh. And can anyone verify that? My attorney. My accountant, the Secretary of State's office where my company is registered, the escrow firm that issued the check. Pick one. Todd hovered 3 feet away, feeding his version to anyone who would listen. In my experience, he said to the first officer, these types of schemes usually involve stolen identities. I wouldn't trust anything she says. These types. There it was again. The first officer, the professional one, stepped away from Todd. She pulled out her radio and quietly ran Willa's ID through the system. Driver's license, valid, no warrants, no flags. Clean record. She looked at her partner. She checks out, she said quietly. Doesn't matter, Todd called out from behind his desk. Trust me, I know fraud when I see it. I don't care what the system says. 20 minutes passed. 20 minutes of Willa Crawford standing against a wall in a bank she owned, being watched like a criminal by people who worked for her. And here's the detail that still gets me. During those 20 minutes, while Willa was standing there humiliated, surrounded by police, a white man in a polo shirt walked into the bank. He carried a duffel bag. Inside it, $50,000 in cash. No certified check, no escrow paperwork, no appointment. Just loose cash in a bag. Todd got up from his desk, walked over, shook the man's hand, called him by his first name, processed the deposit personally in under 10 minutes, offered him coffee. $50,000 in cash from a duffel bag, no questions asked. $20 million in a certified check from a black woman. Police called. Willa saw it. The officers saw it. Denise Holloway saw it. Everyone in that lobby saw it. Nobody said a word. Well, almost nobody. Denise Holloway stepped out from behind her teller window. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was shaking too. But she walked up to the first officer and said what nobody else in that building had the courage to say. Officer, I need to say something. That woman provided valid identification and a certified check from a legitimate escrow firm. Our bank protocol requires us to verify large deposits through our system before making any determination. Mr. Brannigan didn't follow protocol. He didn't verify anything. He just... Denise, Todd's voice cut through the lobby like a blade. Back to your window. Now. Denise looked at him. For a moment it seemed like she might keep going, but 12 years of Todd Brannigan's reign had taught everyone in that branch the same lesson. Speak up and suffer. She went back to her window, but the seed was planted. The first officer watched Denise walk away, then looked at Todd with new eyes. Something wasn't adding up, and it was about to come apart. Outside, a black sedan pulled into the parking lot. The engine cut off. 2 doors opened, and the people who stepped out were about to turn Todd Brannigan's entire world upside down. The front door of Heritage First National Bank opened, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Gerald Ashworth walked in first. Regional director, silver hair, charcoal suit, the kind of man whose presence rearranged a room without him saying a word. Behind him, attorney Renee Whitfield, black woman, late 40s, leather portfolio under her arm, eyes like a loaded weapon. Behind her, a second attorney and a woman from the bank's compliance department carrying a file box. 4 people, walking in formation, walking with purpose. Todd saw Gerald from across the lobby and immediately switched on his best smile. The groveling smile, the one he saved for people who signed his performance reviews. Gerald! Todd said, straightening his tie and stepping forward. Great to see you, sir. We've got a small situation here, but I've got it completely under... Gerald walked past him, didn't slow down, didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge his existence. He walked directly to Willa Crawford, still standing near the wall where the officer had placed her, and stopped. The entire bank was watching. Gerald Ashworth extended his hand. Mrs. Crawford, he said. His voice carried across the marble floor. I am so deeply sorry. Are you all right? Todd's smile froze on his face like a mask that suddenly didn't fit. Gerald? Todd stepped forward. You know this woman? Gerald didn't turn around. He kept his eyes on Willa. She took his hand, shook it once, nodded. "I'm fine, Gerald," she said, "but we have a lot to discuss." Gerald turned to face the lobby, the officers, the customers, the employees, Colton Mercer, who had gone pale as milk near the front door, Denise Holloway, who was gripping her counter with both hands. "Officers," Gerald said, his voice steady and clear, "I want to thank you for responding today, but I need to clarify something important about this situation." He paused. Let the silence do its work. "This woman, Willa Crawford, is not a fraud suspect. She is not a scammer. She is not a criminal." Another pause. "She is the majority owner of Heritage First National Bank. She holds a controlling interest through Thornfield Capital. She is, in the most literal and legal sense of the word, Mr. Brannigan's employer." The lobby didn't gasp. It was worse than a gasp. It was the sound of 15 people understanding everything at once. A silence so heavy it pressed against the walls. Todd laughed. A short, broken laugh. The laugh of a man whose brain refused to process what his ears just heard. No, that can't be right. Gerald, come on, you're not serious." Gerald didn't repeat himself. He just looked at Todd, and the look said everything his words didn't. Attorney Renee Whitfield stepped forward. She placed a document on the counter, a certified ownership summary from Thornfield Capital, stamped and notarized. She opened it to the relevant page and turned it to face Todd. Then she spoke. Not loud. She didn't need to be loud. "Mr. Brannigan, the check you destroyed this morning was a legitimate certified instrument issued by Ashford National Escrow. What you did today constitutes destruction of a financial document, discriminatory conduct in violation of federal banking regulations, and potentially criminal behavior under multiple statutes." She closed the portfolio. "This entire interaction has been captured on the bank's internal security cameras. Mrs. Crawford has already requested that all footage be preserved. I'd advise you not to touch anything in your office." The second officer, the one who had shaken Todd's hand when he arrived, took a step backward. The first officer nodded slowly, her face unreadable. The power in that room had reversed completely. The air itself felt different, like gravity had shifted and everyone was still finding their footing. Willa stepped away from the wall. For the first time since she walked into this bank, she spoke with her full voice. Not louder, but fuller. The voice of someone who no longer needed to hold back. "Todd, I came into this branch today as a customer. I wanted to see how this bank treats people who look like me." She paused. "Now I know." She turned to the lobby, to the customers who had been watching, to the mother holding her child, to the elderly woman by the entrance, to Denise Holloway behind her counter. "I apologize to every person in this building who was ever made to feel unwelcome. That ends today." Todd's face had drained of all color. His hands trembled at his sides. He looked to Colton Mercer for support. Some sign, some solidarity, anything. Colton was staring at the floor. Denise Holloway was crying at her window. Not from sadness, from 3 years of relief crashing down at once. And the young black mother by the door, the one who had been recording this whole time, lowered her phone and whispered to her daughter, "You see that, baby? That right there." The next 60 seconds were the longest of Todd Brannigan's life. He went through every stage of desperation like a man drowning in shallow water. Denial first. Always denial first. This is a misunderstanding," he said, tugging at his collar. "I was following protocol. We have procedures for large deposits. I was protecting the bank. That's my job. That's what I'm supposed to—" "You tore up a certified check," Gerald said, "and called a customer a monkey." Todd flinched. "I didn't. It was a figure of speech. I didn't mean it like—" "You called the police on the majority owner of this institution," Renee Whitfield added. "You had her detained against a wall in her own bank for 20 minutes. You destroyed a $20 million financial document without running a single verification. None of that is protocol, Mr. Brannigan. That is prejudice." Todd switched to deflection, the second card in the deck. If she had just told me who she was from the beginning, if she'd said something, I would have handled it differently. How was I supposed to know? She didn't look like... He stopped himself, but too late. Everyone heard where that sentence was going. Willa spoke from her chair, calm, precise, final. I shouldn't have to announce who I am to be treated with basic respect, Todd. I walked into this bank as a customer. I gave you my name. I gave you my ID. I gave you a certified check with a verification number printed on it. You didn't check any of it. You looked at my skin and made your decision. Todd tried the last card, the false apology. Mrs. Crawford, I sincerely apologize if there was any misunderstanding. I have the utmost respect for... Stop, Willa said. One word. It hit like a door slamming shut. Gerald stepped forward. Todd, you're suspended effective immediately. Hand over your keys and your access badge. You will be escorted from the building by security. Todd's mouth opened. Nothing came out. His hand went to his belt where his keys hung. He unclipped them slowly, like a soldier surrendering his weapon. He placed them on the glass desk, the same desk where he'd torn up the check less than an hour ago. He removed his badge, set it next to the keys. Gerald didn't touch them. He just nodded to the security guard who had appeared near the front entrance. Then Gerald turned to Colton Mercer. Colton had been inching toward the back hallway, trying to disappear, trying to become invisible. Mr. Mercer. Colton froze. You stood by and watched. You positioned yourself at the door to intimidate a customer. You participated in the hostile environment Mr. Brannigan created. Not just today, but by all accounts for years. You're suspended as well, pending a full investigation. Colton's face flushed red from his collar to his hairline. I was just doing my job, he muttered. I was just following Todd's lead. That's exactly the problem, Gerald replied. The security guard walked Todd to the front door. Todd had to cross the entire lobby, the same lobby he had ruled for 12 years. He passed the teller windows where employees he bullied worked in silence. He passed the waiting area where customers he profiled sat in invisible lines. He passed Denise Holloway, who watched him go with tears still wet on her cheeks. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody wished him well. Nobody looked at him with sympathy. The glass door opened. Todd stepped through. The glass door closed behind him. 12 years, gone in 12 minutes. The first officer approached Willa. She took off her hat and held it against her chest. Ma'am, I owe you an apology. I should have verified the situation more thoroughly before I let it get to this point. I'm sorry. Willa nodded. Thank you. The second officer said nothing. He was already calculating the complaint headed his way. He left through the side entrance without making eye contact with anyone. Gerald moved closer to Willa. He lowered his voice, but not by much. This branch will be overhauled, top to bottom. I should have caught this sooner, Willa. That's on me. Willa looked at him, not with anger, not with forgiveness either, something in between. Yes, she said, it is, but now we fix it. The next 48 hours moved fast. Heritage First National Bank launched a full internal investigation into the Midtown branch before Todd Brannigan's BMW even left the parking lot. Willa didn't ask for it. She ordered it. And she made sure the people conducting it had no connection to Todd, no loyalty to the old guard, and no reason to bury anything. What they found was worse than anyone expected. 3 years of data. 3 years of transactions, loan applications, approval rates, denial rates, service times, complaint logs. All of it pulled apart and laid out on a table like evidence at a crime scene. Because that's exactly what it was. Black and Latino applicants at the Midtown branch were denied loans at a rate 340% higher than white applicants with identical financial profiles. Same credit scores, same income levels, same documentation, different outcomes, every single time. Premium banking services, the leather chair treatment, the priority processing, the personal phone calls, were offered almost exclusively to white clients. 92%. That wasn't an accident. That was a system. The 9 complaints filed against Todd over 3 years? They were all there, filed properly, documented, time-stamped. And every single one had been marked resolved, no action required, by the same internal reviewer. A man who played golf with Todd every other Saturday. But the emails were the kill shot. The investigation team pulled Todd's internal correspondence going back 18 months. What they found made even the most seasoned compliance officers sit back in their chairs. One email from Todd to Colton Mercer, dated 11 months earlier, read, "Another one with a business loan application. LOL. Just process it slow and they usually give up." Another from 6 months before the incident. "Had a couple come in today wanting a mortgage consultation. Took one look and sent them to the waiting area. They left after an hour. Problem solved." There were more, dozens more. A paper trail of casual cruelty dressed up as professional judgment. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, the federal agency that oversees national banks, was notified within 72 hours. They opened a parallel investigation. Heritage First cooperated fully. Willa insisted on it. No lawyers playing defense, no stalling, no spin, full transparency. Then the video hit the internet. The young black mother, the one who had been standing near the door with her daughter, the one who had been clutching her small business loan documents while watching Willa get humiliated, she had recorded everything. 3 minutes and 42 seconds of footage. Clear audio, clear video. Todd's words, the torn check, the police, Willa standing against the wall, the white man with the duffel bag getting a handshake, all of it. She posted it that night with a caption, "This happened today at Heritage First National Bank. Watch the whole thing." By morning, it had 4 million views. By the end of the second day, 15 million. The title the internet gave it was almost identical to what actually happened. Bank manager tears up black woman's $20 million check, doesn't know she owns the bank. It was everywhere. Every platform, every news desk, every group chat in America. Samantha Ellis, a national news anchor, ran the story on her evening broadcast. She interviewed Denise Holloway first. Denise sat in a studio chair, hands folded in her lap, and described 3 years of watching Todd Brannigan mistreat customers of color. 3 years of biting her tongue. 3 years of filing complaints that went nowhere. "I knew it was wrong," Denise said on camera. "Every single day I knew. But when you speak up and nothing changes, when the complaints just disappear, you start to feel like maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're the one who doesn't belong." The interview got 12 million views on its own. Then Willa did something she almost never did. She gave an interview. One camera, one take. She sat in a simple chair. No makeup team, no publicist hovering off screen. Just Willa, in a blazer, looking directly into the lens. "I didn't go into that bank to make a scene," she said. "I went in to deposit a check. What happened next is what happens to black people in financial institutions every single day. Except most of them don't own the bank. Most of them don't have a Gerald to call. Most of them just have to stand there and take it." That clip alone was shared over 20 million times. The public response was massive. Thousands of people called Heritage First's customer service line, not to complain, but to share their own stories. Former customers of the Midtown branch came forward in waves, dozens of them, each one with a version of the same experience. The long waits, the suspicious looks, the applications that mysteriously went nowhere, the feeling of being watched, followed, questioned for simply existing in a space that was supposed to serve them. Then came the legal consequences. Todd Brannigan was formally charged with destruction of a financial instrument and violation of federal anti-discrimination banking statutes. The charges carried a maximum penalty of 10 years in federal prison and $500,000 in personal fines. Colton Mercer was charged as an accessory for enabling and participating in a documented pattern of discriminatory conduct. He faced up to 3 years and $100,000 in fines. Multiple former customers filed a class action civil lawsuit against the bank for systematic discrimination under Todd's management. Willa didn't fight it. She directed the bank's legal team to cooperate fully with every plaintiff. The trial lasted 9 days. Todd took the stand on day 6. He wore a suit that didn't fit right anymore, lost weight, dark circles under his eyes. His attorney tried to paint him as a diligent manager who made a single error in judgment. Then Renee Whitfield stood up for cross-examination. She played the security footage, every second of it. The lobby watched Todd tear the check on a 60-inch screen mounted behind the witness box. She read his emails aloud, one by one, slowly, letting each word sink into the jury like a stone into still water. She presented the statistical analysis. 340% disparity in loan denials. She brought in the compliance data, the buried complaints, the golf buddy who marked them resolved. Todd tried to hold the line. "I treat everyone the same," he said under oath. Renee didn't even respond. She just turned to the jury and let them sit with that statement while the footage played behind her on a loop. The jury deliberated for 1 hour and 43 minutes. Guilty. All counts. Todd Brannigan was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison, $350,000 in personal fines, permanently barred from the banking industry for life. Colton Mercer. Guilty. 18 months, $80,000 in fines, also barred from banking, permanently. The judge's closing statement was brief. She looked directly at Todd when she delivered it. "Mr. Brannigan, you were entrusted with a position of public service. You used that position to demean, exclude, and discriminate against the very people you were obligated to serve. The court has no tolerance for this. None." Todd was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. He didn't look up. But the story didn't end with a verdict. Willa made sure of that. Within 30 days of the trial, she stepped into a more active role at Heritage First National Bank and launched a complete institutional overhaul. Mandatory anti-bias training for every employee at every branch. A new anonymous complaint system with independent review. No more golf buddies marking cases resolved. A community advisory board with representatives from every neighborhood the bank served. And a $10 million fund dedicated to small business loans for historically underserved communities. Denise Holloway, the teller who risked her job to speak up when nobody else would, was promoted to assistant branch manager of the Midtown location, which was now led by a new manager recruited from outside the company. And the young black mother who filmed the video? The one whose small business loan had been slow-walked into oblivion under Todd's management? Willa personally reviewed her application. Every document was in order. It had always been in order. The loan was approved in 48 hours. 6 months later, that woman opened a bakery on the same block as the Midtown branch. She named it Rise. The grand opening had a line around the corner. So where is everyone now? Let me finish this out. Willa Crawford went back to doing what she always did, building things quietly. She launched a national initiative called Open Door Banking, pushing for transparency and accountability in how financial institutions treat every customer who walks through their doors, regardless of what they look like. 6 months after the trial, she gave the keynote speech at the National Banking Conference in Washington, D.C. Standing ovation. 3 minutes long. Her husband Calvin was in the front row. Same quiet smile he always wore. The man never needed the spotlight, he just needed to be there. And he always was. Todd Brannigan is in a federal correctional facility in Virginia. He filed 2 appeals, both denied. His banking license, permanently revoked. The leased BMW was repossessed 3 weeks after his sentencing. His wife filed for divorce before the first appeal was even heard. The last anyone heard, he spends most of his days in the prison library, reading financial newspapers about an industry that will never let him back in. Colton Mercer completed his 18 months, got out, moved to another state, Changed his phone number. No bank in the country will hire him. His name comes up on every industry background check now, right next to the words discriminatory conduct and accessory. Denise Holloway is thriving. She finished her first semester in an MBA program, paid for by a scholarship fund Willa created specifically for bank employees who demonstrated integrity under pressure. Denise was the first recipient. She told a reporter last month that she still thinks about that Tuesday morning every single day. Not the pain of it, the moment she decided to speak up anyway. Gerald Ashworth retired 6 months after the incident, quietly. No farewell party. In his retirement letter, which was later leaked to the press, he wrote one line that stuck with everyone who read it. "I should have looked closer sooner. Willa Crawford held a mirror up to this institution, and I didn't like what I saw, but I'm grateful she did it." The Midtown branch of Heritage First National Bank looks different now. Physically different. The oil paintings of old white men in dark suits, gone. Replaced with portraits of the community the bank actually serves. Diverse faces. Real people. The waiting area has been redesigned. No more rope lines, no more invisible sorting system. Customer satisfaction scores have risen 60%. Minority lending at that single branch has increased 280%. And that bakery, Rise, the one opened by the young mother who filmed the video, it's become a neighborhood landmark. She put a small framed photo behind the register. It's a screenshot from her video, the moment Willa Crawford sat down in that chair and refused to leave. Underneath it, a handwritten note. "Stay seated."